Hi everyone! For today's project I would like to show everyone how to make this Be Mine for Christmas Time bracelet. This is really pretty, really sparkly, and I think you're going to enjoy making this because it's very quick and very simple to make. So let's get started. I want to tell you what you need for supplies. You're going to need, I made this one in all silver plated findings, and today I'm going to do it in gold plated. So I'm going to use, instead of crystal beads AB, I'm going to use these amber AB 4mm bicones. You're going to need the red and the green 8mm Rondel crystals, and these are just Chinese crystals. They're not Swarovskis, and these are not Swarovskis either. You're going to need some daisy spacers, and these are the really tiny ones. I believe these are 5mm daisy spacers, or 4mm you can use. You're going to need a closure, and the closure I'm using is the filigree 2-strand closure, so it just opens and it closes like that. You're going to need 4 oval jump rings, and the reason I used oval jump rings is because if you pull on your bracelet and you happen to pull your jump ring apart, it's a lot harder to pull an oval jump ring apart as opposed to a round one. You're going to need 4 crimp beads. You're going to need some 3-hole or 2-hole spacer bars, and I'm using these 3-hole ones because it's the perfect distance that I need between the 8mm, because these are 8mm crystals. So if you use a 2-hole one, that's going to be pretty tight. So you will probably need to use these 3-hole spacer bars. You are going to need some 4 crimp bead covers, and I'm using the one with the two loops on both ends. So you might want to use these or whatever you've got. You're going to need 4 of those. And that is, oh, and beading Tigertail. I'm using Tigertail. This is like a nylon coated steel wire. It's about 0.7, and it doesn't break. So I'm going to be using about, I'm going to just cut off 2 strands. I'm going to go about this long. And I'll cut off about 2 strands, about 8 inches, 8 to 9. No, you better do 9 inches, just so you have room to pull over, and you'll see why. So you gather all your materials, and let's get started on this bracelet. Okay, so I've gone ahead and cut my beading wire about good 9-10 inches. It's much longer than what I need it for. I'm not a big fan of crimping pliers, so I don't use crimp pliers. So I'm picking up a bead between my needle nose pliers, and I'm going to stick it on to the end of the wire, and I'm going to squish it in there and keep it centered. And that's what you should have, a flattened bead. And because the hole is so big in these crimp bead covers, I'm just going to leave that flat so it doesn't pull off. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my pliers and kind of center it in the middle of the crimp bead and close the crimp bead up nicely. And there's one end of your wire done. You're going to do the same thing on the other end. Is you're going to take your crimp bead and your pliers like so, put it on the end, and squish it, kind of center it, and squish it in there nicely, good and tight. And if you've got any wire sticking up that you're afraid is going to come out of your crimp bead cover, trim it off. So take another crimp bead cover, and you're going to cover up this one as well. and close your cap. With that kind of centered in the widened part of it. Could be a little tricky at first. And close. And I got those a little crooked now. Alright. So those two are done. You're going to take one part of your closure, whatever kind of closure you're using, as long as it has the two holes, the two ends, and you're going to open two of your jump rings. So we're going to start with one jump ring, and I'm going to open it. I'm going to hook one end of my clasp into it, making sure the jump ring, it's on this way, and then one end of this wire on one side of it. And I will need another pair of pliers to close this. Okay. Alright, let's get this nice and closed. And I could hear them scratching together, so I know it's good and closed. There's one end on. And we're going to do the same thing, the other one. Take a jump ring. I usually just open them with my fingers. Put it in here. Put this on the other end, or you can put them both together, whatever way you want to do it. I just want to make sure mine stays both facing the same way. It's a bit finicky of a project. And close. And I kind of can see how my jump ring is not meeting on the end friend, so I'm going to give it a little squish down. That's why oval jump rings are a pain in my butt. Now let's hope that it closes right this time. There we go. There. Good and tight. I still don't like how that's sticking up. Always got one. There we go. You always got to make sure that these are closed good and tight, because you don't want your stuff falling off. There, finally, perfect closed. Okay, so for this bracelet, I have done here, you can see I have my spacer beads between each section. So this one section is this area here. So it's going to be a crystal and two of the big ones, a crystal and two of the big ones. There's one section. And then there's a spacer bead. And then you've got to repeat the section here and a spacer bead, and so on and so forth. So what I would suggest, if you need to make this bracelet smaller, and this bracelet is a size, it's exactly a size 8. So if say you have to make this bracelet a 7, 7.5, you don't want to finick with the middle part. You want to leave this alone. You want to leave it that exact amount of beads in there. The ends is where you want to shorten it. So like I have to make this a 7mm bracelet, a 7-inch bracelet, or 7.5-inch bracelet. I'm going to remove some of these big crystals here, and I'll show you how to do that as we go. Right now I've got this section is complete section here and here and here. They're all the same. So we're going to just remove beads off the ends and make both our ends exactly the same when we finish. So if I wanted to make this a 7, so the middle piece here from there to there is exactly 3¼ inches. From here to here is 3¼ inches. So on these ends here, this is where you need to decipher what amount you have to put on. So take this. If you have to make a 7-inch bracelet, this is 3¼ you're going to remove at least that many beads, because you got to leave room for this and for this, for your ends, your toggle, or toggle your closure. I know it's sounding complicated, but it's really not. So today I'm going to remove only if I remove these 4 beads, so you'll be losing these 4 beads, you'll be losing daisy spacers, which still take up some room. So one section here is 1½ inch. So 1½ is 3 inches. Oh, sorry, no, it's about, let's take it right straight from the clasp. We're dealing with 2 inches. Okay. So from here to here is 2 inches. And then you got 2 inches here. There's your 4, there's your 3, there's, well, 3 and a bit. And then there's about a ½ inch for your closure. So you're looking at your, this is 8 inches altogether when it's all done. Now I want to make it about 7½ inches. So let me see what I need to remove to get at least ½ inch off. So if I remove a set here and a set here at this end, then it's going to be a 7-inch bracelet. So to get started, this is really super easy. There's your end done. You're going to pick up one of your crystals, your 4mm crystals, and again I'm just using the Chinese crystals. You're going to put those on. Oh, and you need your daisy spacers, so let's put some over here where they're easy for me to get at. You're going to put a daisy spacer on each end. I'm no good with my left hand. And you're going to put one red. So this is where we're going to shorten it. And one green. Normally we'd put a daisy spacer in and then put another set of these in. So I'm going to put daisy spacer on each one. Like so. Another 4mm Bicone crystal on each. Okay, come on. Alright. Now this is where the difference has come in play. Alright, because here we've only stuck one group of the 8mm in here, as opposed to here we stuck in 2 groups. See what I'm getting at here? So instead we would have put in 1 here, so there's 2 gone and there'll be 2 gone here. Now you're going to put your daisy spacer on each end. Okay, and now you're just going to switch up your colors. Here you finished with the red, so you're going to pick up a green one on this end and let it fall down, and you're going to pick up a red one on this one and a daisy spacer on each one. I told you I'm not good with my left hand. Okay. So you've finished with red, switch it up, put a green one on. And on the other one you're going to stick a red, and I'll just put this one on. My left hand sucks. Alright. Now you're going to put a daisy spacer. On each one. A bicone on each one. And now you're going to use, make sure you're straight here. This is actually very pretty in the gold findings. Very pretty. Now you're going to put your spacer bar in. So you're going to put it on one end and leave the middle one not used and put it through the other end. So you have this. And bring that down. And this will pull your work together. And this is where you have shortened it. So if you needed to go a little bit shorter, then skip this whole entire area out, these 4 beads. So you would have skipped one section of the 4. Oopsies, we're tangled here. So you would have skipped these 4 beads here, and then you would have started with just starting at these crystals and worked your way and ended the same on the other side. So this is it for this bracelet. It's just repeat pattern now, except in the middle here you're going to put a spacer bead, a daisy spacer on after you put your spacer bar on. So you're going to put daisies. Wow, I can't grab with my left hand if I tried. Okay, and keep an eye on what color you ended with. So on this one here, I ended with red. So I'm going to pick up a green one. And this one a red one. A daisy spacer on each. Okay, and this one here I need a red one because it ended with a green. And this one needs a green one. And then a daisy spacer on each one. A Bicone crystal on each one. And some more daisy spacers. Okay, I'll get my stuff twisted and not here. And then you ended with green, so we need to pick up, I'm just going to do it quick, pick up a red, a daisy spacer, a green, a daisy spacer, a bicone. So this side is complete. Now you're going to do the same thing. You're going to pick up a green, a daisy spacer, a red, a daisy spacer, and a bicone. So this is what you've got now, part of your center done. And now we're going to add another spacer bar in between that group. That section is done. So remember to take the one end on one side of your spacer bar and put the second end through the other end of the spacer bar. So you have this. And let it fall. So now you're going to repeat this entire section like this one more time till you get to the end, and then I'll come back and show you what to do and to close this off and finish it off here. So I'll see you back here when you get this section done. Okay, so we've completed putting on all our beads, and now we're at the end of our bracelet. And again, I finished off this end exact same to match this end, and left the center full of the pattern in the center. So to close this off, you might want to hold one end of your wire in your hand as you're working, because all your beads will fall off. On this end, you're going to put one of your bead cap or your bead crimp bead covers on and let it fall down to the bottom. You're going to put a crimp bead on and let it fall into the bead cap cover. Now this is where it's going to be a bit tricky. Now you don't want to pull this super tight that this is just going to buckle on you. So don't pull it too tight. Just let the beads hang, dangle normally, and just leave a tiny bit of wire showing. So we want to open our bead cap up, cover or whatever thing you want to call this. And I want to try and crimp this in the middle as best as I can. So I'm going to bring that down and I'm going to squish it, and it's closed. And make sure it's good and closed tight, doesn't open up on you. And then close your crimp bead cover over top of your crimped bead. Oops, forgot to trim that off. One sec. So all I'm going to do is pull this cover back open. We need to cut our wire. I can't ever make a video without making a mistake. I'm only human. So trim it off right at the tip. There we go. Alright, that'll look better now. And close it up. There, that just finishes it off, makes it look nice, and hides your crimp bead in there. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to drop your crimp bead cover on, pick up your crimp bead, let it fall, try to open it up so it gets to sitting in there nicely, and take your pliers and crimp it up nice and tight. This time, trim the wire off before you close your crimp bead cap. And there we go. And close this up. Okay, it just wants to give me some havoc here. And close. There we go. Now, same thing applies as we did here. We've got our other half of our closure and our other last two, our other half and our last two oval jump rings. And again, we're going to open our jump ring going to take the one end of our bracelet, and this here you want to make sure it's going to close properly. So we need to turn this over, because when it folds up, this part has to go inside of the closure properly. So pick this up, put one end of your bracelet on, and one end of your closure on, and close up this jump ring. Good and tight. There's one side done. And then you're going to open your jump ring. Be very careful when you close this. You make sure you put this on the right way. You might even want to close it now so you can make sure you do it right. So open up your last jump ring. Hook the two of them together to go into this one, into the last hole on your closure. Finicky. Make sure it doesn't get twisted, and close this up. Oops. Good and tight. Sometimes I do not like the way jump rings close, and some people just don't care. They just leave it with the little gap in it, a little tiny gap in it, but I care. So this jump ring has to be closed perfect for me to put it down and say it's done. There we go. There is your bracelet done in, this is in Gold Findings. Oh my goodness. You can't even see it. There we go. It's all done in gold, and there we have silver. So this ended up being, I'll tell you in a second, from there to there, 7 1/4 inch bracelet. So if you remove a little bit off each end, that's what you're going to end up with. So that's the end of this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and this is called the Be Mine for Christmas Time bracelet. Thanks for watching. Happy beading. Bye everyone.